Now, I'm not one to gossip, but I will bring you the tea. Welcome to Chronicle Speaks.
Please, I don't have any time for any gossip now. Eh? Yes.
So we've all been waiting for an update on the Shanquella Robinson case, and while I wish the update was an arrest, unfortunately it's not. It appears that 2 of the Cabo 6 are now wanting Salamandra Robinson, who is Shanquella Robinson's mother, to take the civil case that she brought against them in a North Carolina Superior Court and now dismiss that case and enter a new one in the Mexican court. Dejanay Jackson, now known as Imani Green, is being sued for wrongful death and simple battery, and the Cabo 6 are being sued for negligence, civil conspiracy, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and negligent infliction of emotional distress. Now, Elise Hyatt and Winter Donovan have both obtained their own attorneys, and through their attorneys, they believe that the civil suit should be dismissed because the proper venue, they believe, is in Mexico. Newly released FBI documents reveal that agents spoke to a person who claims that the Cabo 6 said that Shanquella hit her head on a toilet while intoxicated, and that was her reason for passing. Now, the individual also told the FBI that they saw pictures of Robinson's body, which appeared to show signs of her being stomped on. Dejanay Jackson, who has since legally changed her name to Imani Green, is the one responsible for the brutal attack on Shanquella. Unfortunately, efforts to seek justice on a criminal level have been unsuccessful, and as a result, the Cabo 6, along with the FBI and the U.S. Department of State, are now being sued civilly by Salamandra Robinson. We are going to get into this story and so much more, but before we do, please be sure to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss out on any news regarding this story and so much more. Now let's get back into it.
The FBI has released its first findings on a complicated, mysterious death involving a Charlotte woman who died while on a trip to Mexico back in 2022. WBTV was the first to break this story to you back then. We're talking about Shanquella Robinson. She, along with several others, thought to be friends, now known as the Cabo 6, vacationed in Cabo San Lucas back in October of 2022. Shanquella died while on the trip, but her death has been a mystery ever since. Soon after, videos surfaced online showing what is believed to be Shanquella and one of her friends fighting inside their hotel room. The group said Shanquella died of alcohol poisoning, but an autopsy reveals she died of neck and spinal cord injuries. Well, WBTV has obtained the first of a series of initial findings from the FBI detailing what happened and why. It's a heavily redacted report, but the FBI states Shanquella and a group of friends, all names redacted, were in Mexico to celebrate one of their birthdays, adding the group stayed at an Airbnb. The report goes on to say there was an altercation and Shanquella died. Shanquella's friends said she was drinking and hit her head on the toilet, something we have never heard to this day. Well, someone in the group thought there may be 2 cameras in the house and tried to obtain the footage. Blank then contacted local law enforcement in Mexico. Pictures of Shanquella's body showed bruises on her. One person describing it looked like she was stomped on. Just weeks ago, WBTV spoke exclusively with Shanquella's father. He says the whole ordeal has been tough for their family, but is hopeful a new Trump administration can put fresh eyes on the case.
It just seemed like somebody trying to sweep it up under the rug, like she was just a nobody, but she was somebody. She was my daughter. She was somebody to other friends that she had that loved and cared about her so much.
Now, to this day, no charges have ever been filed. Of course, WBTV will continue to keep tabs on this story. We'll update you as we learn more.
Now, before we get into this lawsuit, let's just go over a brief flashback from one of my previous videos regarding how we got to this civil suit. Now, the Mexican autopsy report revealed that Shanquella passed away from severe spinal cord injury and atlas luxation, which is when the C1 and C2 vertebrae become misaligned or dislocated. Now, this autopsy report also revealed that she succumbed to her injuries 15 minutes after receiving them. So in seeing this report, everyone was questioning, did Shanquella pass away before the doctor got there? Or did she pass away after? Now, Shanquella had internal and external injuries. The Mexican autopsy report stated that her death was indeed violent and she passed away due to atlas and medullary dislocation. Then comes the U.S. autopsy report that was completed about 2 weeks later. Now, this autopsy report was completed after she was embalmed, and it stated that there was no atlas luxation. However, it did list hypoxic ischemic brain injury, focal subarachnoid hemorrhage, left frontal and parietal lobes, focal subarachnoid hemorrhage, and thoracic spinal cord. Yet the FBI could not conclude that any of the 6 associates there with her on this trip had anything to do with what happened to her. The FBI ruled her death as inconclusive. The case that seemed to be so open and shut, easily solved with a smoking gun, the video evidence released by the associates of Shanquella, you'd think justice would be served. Well, for whatever reason, things just did not happen that way. However, Shanquella's family is filing a civil lawsuit against the 6 who were there with Shanquella in Mexico during her untimely demise, and out of those 6, 3 lied by omission, failing to disclose that Dejanay had been beating Shanquella prior to her death. Her attorney, Shanquella Robinson, stated that the law firm that she works for will be filing a civil lawsuit on the family's behalf. Now, Shanquella's mother is suing Amani Green, Elise Hyatt, Malik Dyer, Winter Donovan, Khalil Cook, Nazir, Tyree Wiggins, United States Department of State, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So to summarize the civil suit, in October 2022, Shanquella Robinson was invited last minute to a luxury vacation in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico by a group known as the Cabo Six, but unfortunately this trip took a tragic turn. Upon arrival to the villa, Shanquella spoke to her mother, Salamandra Robinson, but they were unaware that this would be their last conversation. On October 29, 2022, defendant Amani Green, formerly known as Dejanay Jackson, brutally attacked Shanquella in one of the villa's bedrooms, repeatedly punching her while she was exposed and unable to defend herself. The other members of the Cabo Six watched the attack but did nothing to intervene. It's also being alleged that Winter Donovan filmed via FaceTime to Amani's boyfriend so he could watch the attack as well. Now, when medical personnel were called, the Cabo Six claimed Shanquella had alcohol poisoning and needed hydration. They denied medical transport to a hospital despite her vital signs being dangerously abnormal, and instead they insisted she needed fluids. As her condition worsened, they refused to allow for emergency treatment or transport. Shanquella was later pronounced dead at the villa from a spinal cord injury and atlas luxation, as confirmed by her Mexican autopsy report. Now, the Cabo Six members left the villa without informing authorities about the true cause of her injuries and returned to the United States, where they did not disclose what happened to Shanquella. Defendant Khalil, who was thought to be Shanquella's best friend, falsely told law enforcement that Shanquella's injuries were from a fall in the pool. However, the recent FBI revelations show that she hit her head on the toilet shortly after the altercation. So which one is it? However, with all of this happening, the Cabo Six members left the country without taking responsibility for their actions. Now, Ms. Salamandra's prayer for relief is the entry of judgment against Amani Green, aka Dejanay Jackson, in the favor of the plaintiff for count 1 wrongful death in the amount of $2 million, the entry of judgment against Amani Green, formerly known as Dejanay Jackson, in favor of the plaintiff for count 2 battery in the amount of $2 million, the entry of judgment against each of the Cabo Six defendants in the favor of plaintiff for count 3 negligence in an amount of $400,000 per defendant, the entry of judgment against each of the Cabo Six in the favor of plaintiff for count 4 civil conspiracy in the amount of $400,000 per defendant. The next entry of judgment against the Cabo Six is count number 5, intentional infliction of emotional distress in an amount of $400,000 per defendant. And last but not least, the entry of judgment against each of the Cabo Six for count number 6, negligent infliction of emotional distress in an amount of $400,000 per defendant. Now, Elise Hyatt and Winter Donovan have these statements of facts. Plaintiff's actions has various legal theories against bystanders, Winter Donovan and Elise Hyatt, arising out of a fight between 2 of their travel companions on a trip to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico on or about October 29, 2022. 2022. The deceased Miss Robinson died in the hours following the fight. There is no allegation that defendant Donovan or Hyatt participated in the fight or touched anyone. Various individuals who all reside in Mexico participated in the treatment of the deceased, including doctors and hotel personnel, each of which are the critical witnesses to support plaintiff's theory that these defendants had a duty to act and negligently perform that duty. Their testimony would be an essential part of any trial of the action. The claims occurred in Mexico and would be governed by Mexico law. Mexico also has a civil justice system. To these defendants' knowledge, no claim has yet been filed in Mexico. So in essence, they're stating that the case involves events that occurred in Mexico and witnesses and evidence are all there, and that the laws in Mexico should govern the case. It should be more efficient and fair to have the trial in Mexico rather than the U.S., especially since the legal issues involve Mexican law and local witnesses. In conclusion, the defendants believe that the case should be heard in Mexico, not the United States. Ms. Salamandra responded, stating that not only was her daughter brutally killed, but after watching and recording the violent attack that took her life, the defendants fled the scene to North Carolina. The complaint sufficiently alleges that the defendants conspired to conceal and destroy evidence. The acts committed in furtherance of the conspiracy occurred in North Carolina. The defendants also conspired to promote and circulate the now viral video depicting the attack. As alleged in the complaint, the Cabo 6 defendants, including defendant Hyatt and defendant Donovan, left Mexico immediately after Shanquella Robinson's unaliving to evade accountability and criminal prosecution. Ms. Salamandra said they're basically forum shopping, and the defendants also claim that they can't get testimony from witnesses in Mexico, but the plaintiff points out that they haven't tried or explained why this would be an issue. Mexico isn't that far. You can make a phone call, you can hit them up on email, WhatsApp. The defendants have no major connections to Mexico, and it's unlikely that they would even cooperate with the legal process there. Therefore, let's keep this in the United States in North Carolina. Now, granted, I don't feel like any of the Cabo 6 nor their family members have the funds that Ms. Salamandra is requesting for them to pay in this civil lawsuit. However, take them for whatever they got. What I need to do is hear from you. What do you think about everything going on in this case of Shanquella Robinson? What do you think about Elise Hyatt and Winter Donovan filing a motion to dismiss to make sure that they are not tried in North Carolina? Leave a comment and you know how we do. We'll talk about it down below. Talk to you guys later. Bye. As always, thanks for watching. But before you go, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and hit the bell so you don't miss out on any of my new episodes.